Jasmine, thanks for being here on New York Now this week.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. So there is a lot to talk about with education, and you're tapped into the education community. You know what teachers and parents are thinking. At the same time, you've seen what the state has done to schools over the past few months and everything that's happened there. Should we reopen schools in September? Are schools ready for that? And are we at a place where students can go back into class?
So there's a lot to unpack there. I think, one, we have to rely on the data from the scientists around whether or not it's safe for people to gather in person. And based on that data and based on scientists' recommendations, we should figure out what we should do. So in the meantime, what we need school districts to do is probably come up with a multiple set of plans. What is learning look like? What will learning look like if it's completely remote? And how do we do it well? What will learning look like if it has to be a hybrid approach of some in-person and some remote learning? And what will learning look like if it can be resumed in school? And schools really have to create these plans with really little guidelines from the state and from the federal government. And so the goal is to strive to in-person learning, but not at the risk of putting families and students and educators in danger.
Right. The state education department released some guidance this week, basically saying that schools will have to put in all of these safeguards: social distancing, students must wear masks. Everything obviously has to be cleaned regularly just to keep students and teachers as safe as possible. At the same time, we don't know if they're going back to class, and there's also this possibility of totally online learning. Is it even possible, Jasmine? I mean, from your perspective, can we have these teachers teach students at the same quality that they're used to year after year with all of these limitations in place? And I don't want to say that those limitations are bad, but certainly they change things for teachers and their jobs.
It's definitely going to be hard for educators, and it's hard for parents as well, dealing with children at home the entire day. I'm trying to help multiple children deal with learning in different settings, having limited devices in the home and having limited connectivity. For some parents, their internet is stressed because the parents are working remotely and the kids are trying to do online learning. And so this is hard for everyone all around. If you think about the beginning of the school year in a typical year, parents are usually the ones who buy the tissue, the hand sanitizer, and all the other supplies for the classroom, things that are like really hard to find right now and more expensive. And so how do we go back to school if parents aren't able to provide those supplies? So how do we, I think a lot of people don't trust that the school district will be able to get the cleaning part correct, and that instead they will be depending on teachers to pick up the slack, which is not acceptable. We actually need to clean our schools, our school buses adequately to make sure we prevent the spread of any disease. I think the other part of that is what's going to happen. How do you enforce wearing a mask? You know, yes, kids should wear a mask, but tell that to a 6-year-old who just wants to run around and play.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, I don't even see grown adults wearing masks the right way in Target. How are we going to have 5-year-olds wear these masks in class correctly all day?
Yeah, and then the other thing, and I think the state education department recognizes, kids learn about facial cues. And so really like not being able to see a part of an adult's face to see that they're smiling at them is not good. And what kids need to thrive is the relationship building. And so how do you keep educators and students safe if you can't see part of their face? And so the recommendations could be wear the clear face shields, but I'm not sure if that's adequate enough safety. One of the things I will say that was notably missing from the state education department's recommendations was if there were no waivers on state tests and the state regents. And I think that's really a little bit disappointing because school districts need to know early as possible if the test will be waived. And the sooner they can make those decisions and get that to school districts, the better they are prepared on how to start the school year and how to address the educational needs of students.
So you brought up a really good point before, and I want to touch on this because I think it's the conversation we have every year. It's about school funding. And a lot of these requirements cost money. I mean, there was part in the guidance where they talked about how schools may have to rent additional spaces to social distance out students. That's not a cheap cost. And like you said, cleaning supplies are going to come out of the pockets of teachers, or I mean, ideally the school district will supply them and the school district is funded by the state. At the same time, we have the governor threatening cuts to school districts. So how does funding play into all this? Can school districts realistically do this with the budgets that they have right now?
Absolutely not. School districts cannot do this well with the resources that they have. They're actually, if they try to implement this with the budgets that they have, they will be putting educators, students, and family at risk. They need more dollars and more resources, whether it's for the technology, whether it's for the cleaning, whether it's for the added transportation costs, the smaller class sizes, which require more educators, for the additional counselors to meet the social and emotional needs of students. It all costs money, and districts are already starving of resources. The state enacted budget that passed in April was inadequate to meet the needs of students. The governor threatening additional cuts. We are really concerned that the first payment, school districts get their money on a monthly basis. They get payments from the state. The first payment for the 2020-21 school year goes out in July. Cuomo has been known already to withhold aid to localities. It's highly likely that he will withhold the first payment to school districts. But also, there's a whole lot of wealth here in New York. We have hundreds of billionaires that call New York home, and a small tax on those ultra rich can produce the billions of dollars in revenue that we need to fund our schools. And those billionaires aren't hurting right now. We've seen reports that said billionaires are accumulating more wealth in the midst of this financial crisis. We need New York's billionaires to do their share. We need them to contribute to our economy. And the only way they will do that is if the governor and the state legislature enact new taxes.
All right, Jasmine Gripper from the Alliance for Quality Education, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.